Hi, I'm Charlie Hunnam, and this is the Wired Autocomplete interview. Let's see what Google wants to know. Does Charlie Hunnam actually ride motorcycles? I did ride motorcycles because, I'm an actor and we just, try to do the stuff that the characters that we play do. So I was riding a motorcycle thinking I was like a little biker for many years while I was doing Sons of Anarchy. I put, maybe 65,000 miles on my bike. I rode it a lot for 10 years. And then I kind of got the fear, and I live in LA. And for those of you who don't live in LA, everyone who lives in LA kind of sucks at driving. And so I kind of got in my head about it and felt as though it was just like a little whisper in the back of my head that said maybe I should chill a little bit on the motorcycle riding. So I chilled a little bit. But I have been riding a little bit recently. But there's a lot of Teslas and Priuses on the road that will definitely kill you stone dead if you're not careful. So does Charlie Hunnam have tattoos? I have one tattoo that I got when I was 18, which was like a mistake. So yeah, it's like some tribal thing that I dreamt, and I thought it was profound, so that I should get it tattooed. And then you realize that not all dreams are profound. Some of them are just shit tattoos. Does Charlie Hunnam know martial arts? Yeah, I study Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so yes, I know a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu. I messed my back up, so I've not been practicing Jiu-Jitsu as much as I'd like, but I got pretty ninja there for a minute or two, so don't try me out. Does Charlie Hunnam live on a ranch? I do not live on a ranch, but I do have a ranch that is undeveloped land without a house or anything on it. So I got a caravan, but I don't sleep in the caravan. I got a pickup truck and just sleep in the back of my pickup truck. It's cool. If I ever go missing, come look for me on the ranch, because there is a mountain lion that lives on the ranch that I've seen twice and seen its paw prints a lot. Hopefully it's well fed and not interested in me, but I am delicious, so you never know. All right, here we go. When did Charlie Hunnam move to America? I moved to America, I think, in 1998. I'd just done a TV show called Queer as Folk that got a lot of attention in the UK, and I managed to get an agent and didn't really like living in England and always wanted to live in America, so got invited to come out here. This agent said, would you like to come out for a trip and, do some auditions? I'll represent you. And I said, yeah, I'll be there next week. It was either that or go back to college. I was at college and I left to do this TV show, and I was supposed to go back to college, but I came to America instead. So what has Charlie Hunnam written? I would say I'm one of the most successful writers who's never made anything. I've written several films and a couple of TV shows, none of which has been produced yet, which I'm trying not to get disheartened and believe that means that I suck as a writer. But first film I wrote was about Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes, who was the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. So we'll see if some point we can get that made. Why is Charlie playing Ed Gein? Well, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure myself, or at least I wasn't. I thought I'd made a horrible mistake initially, but Ed Gein's a really interesting character in that he's somebody that I didn't know anything about. It seems a lot of people don't really know who he is directly, but had this enormous cultural impact in that he was the inspiration for Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Silence of the Lambs and all of these films, which really transformed the way we told stories about monsters. Prior to Hitchcock's Psycho, monsters were werewolves and Dracula and vampires and stuff like that. And after Psycho, we became the monsters. And so he had this huge cultural impact. It wasn't even as much the Ed Gein of it that I was interested in. It was working with Ryan Murphy, who was wanting to ask the question, what makes a monster? We're interested in why Ed did what he did, and he did some pretty wild, despicable things, rather than what he did, because what he did was, although pretty out there and extreme, and some people might be interested in that, it's pretty gross and despicable, but thankfully we spend most of our time trying to understand the man behind the monster. What does Charlie Hunnam like doing? Not Googling myself, I'll tell you that much. I like working a lot. I think I'm a workaholic. I like cooking, I like hiking, I like, I don't know. All right, we're cooking. Do these get progressively weirder and more upsetting? Let's see. How does Charlie Hunnam change his accent? I guess, I just, I do it for work. Consciously, I think I probably do it when I travel around the world. Subconsciously, I get a lot of flack for having a half English, half American accent, which, you know, I'm half English and half American. I lived in England for 18 years and I lived in America for 27 years. So what are you going to do? I'm half English, half American. But in terms of how I changed my accent for work, I work with the dialect coach and I run the lines lots and lots of times and try to figure out how to do it. How did Charlie Hunnam get the role of Jax? Going back to my earlier question, had just finished writing a screenplay for the first time about Vlad the Impaler, which took longer than I thought it was going to do. I was broke, and so I had to go back to work as an actor, and it was the time before you got emailed scripts where you'd get printed hard copy like of scripts and like 120 pages long, and I had this big pile of scripts to read, and the the thinnest one was Sons of Anarchy because it was only about 50 some pages long. And so I said, all right, I'll read that one first, and just thought it was amazing. I loved the script and thought the character was like super cool, and the world was just felt like fresh and original and like nothing I'd really seen before. And so I called my agent and said, I really like the script. And he's like, yeah, well, we sent that to you like 3 months ago, so you know it's probably too late. But the writer, Kurt Sutter, had really wanted you to read it, like he'd sent it to you specifically. And I said, well, yeah, but it'd be nice if you told me that. And he said, yeah, well, you weren't answering your phone, dickhead. So I went, okay. And so I said, well, just call him and find out if the role's still available. So we called him and they hadn't cast it, and so I went and auditioned. It was interesting, he'd seen me in a film while he was writing this about hooligans, about British football hooligans called Green Street Hooligans, and he thought, if that guy can do an American accent, then he's maybe my guy. What does Charlie Hunnam use in his hair? I add a little bit of toncho, which I guess is maybe Japanese. It's like a lavender wax. Check it out, you can Google it. Can Charlie Hunnam dance? The answer is no. Okay, I'm not sweating yet, so this is good. All right, what is Charlie Hunnam's best movie? I don't know, I guess that's subjective. I would say my best movie is The Lost City of Zed, followed by maybe The Gentleman. I don't know, but I'll let you decide for that yourself. What are Charlie Hunnam's hobbies? Working. Mainly. What did Charlie Hunnam keep from SOA? Everything that I could steal. I kept the bike, I kept the cut, I kept the knife, I kept the rings. I kept weird shit that made no sense, like a red plastic dragon that I didn't even like and didn't even really know was in the set till the last day, and it wasn't nailed down, so I stole that too. What music does Charlie Hunnam listen to? I listen to everything. So the fundamentals, the like cornerstone of my musical journey would be Bob Dylan, Tom Waits, Leonard Cohen, Van Morrison. Van Morrison was huge. That's when I was young and learning to smoke pot and learning the meaning of life, and all of those artists helped me a lot in, I don't know, figuring out life. That's all the boards. That's all my bullshit. Thanks for having me. See you next time.